Tonight, WWE presents Money in the Bank from Fort Worth, Texas. Of course, as always, in these Money in the Bank pay-per-view events, we have two Money in the Bank ladder matches. One being the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, one being the female Money in the Bank ladder match. And that's what we're going to talk about here. We're going to talk about the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. You can see the competitors on the screen right there. We'll go through them. First being the Women's Tag Team Champions, Natalya and Tamina. We have Alexa Bliss, Liv Morgan, Nikki A.S.H, almost a superhero. That's the gimmick. Naomi, Asuka, and Zelina Vega. That's the lineup that we have this year. Now, I'm going to do a preview video talking about the men's Money in the Bank ladder match in the same vein that I'm going to do one talking about the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, which we're doing right now. It's interesting because I'm one of those people. I hate to do this because I remember I did it back in the day. Me and my friends used to, bet on pro wrestling when you're younger. Go on Sky Bet or some of those other betting services. But I used to go on there and then before the event put some bets on, see if you can win some money whilst you're enjoying the pay-per-view, all that kind of stuff. Yes, I know, massive mark. The problem is with that is that a lot of the time, like with anything, the bookies have information. And even if they don't have information, the way they work out odds is that if a lot of people, for instance, hypothetically here, if a lot of people were putting money on Tamina Snuka winning the Money in the Bank ladder match, they would shorten the odds because it would be an indication Tamina Snuka's going to win the Money in the Bank ladder match. She's not, by the way. At least I hope not. Could you imagine? Oh, my word, that would be crazy. So my long-winded point here, and you might think, why on earth are you going with this, Owen? My long-winded point here is that reportedly, and I might be wrong here, I've been wrong before, by the way, but reportedly, the Money in the Bank winners this year for both the men and the females is reportedly pretty uncertain. And I think that if you look certainly in this women's Money in the Bank ladder match, I think I can understand that. I truly can understand that. Historically, over the course of the last few years, obviously there's two Money in the Bank ladder matches. One briefcase gets cashed in near enough immediately, whether it's the same night, whether it's the next night on Raw or the next episode of SmackDown or within a month or something. Historically, one of the briefcase gets cashed in relatively quickly. The other briefcase gets held onto for nearly a year, like 9 months, 10 months, 11 months, whatever. That's usually what they do. Looking at the lineup in this one, it's difficult to predict. The reason I say it's difficult to predict, and again, reportedly, Vince McMahon is still trying to figure out himself who he wants to win the Money in the Bank ladder match this year. I think the best way to do it, let's go through the competitors in this match and let's see who realistically makes sense. Who realistically is the one which you would go, yeah, she should probably win the Money in the Bank because she's got something that she can be a world champion in a sense. She can be a Raw SmackDown Women's Champion. So let's look at, start off. You can see her at the top of the screen there, Natalya. Is Natalya going to win the Money in the Bank ladder match? The answer would be there, no. Yes, she's a former SmackDown Women's Champion. I don't think she's won the Raw Women's Championship. But she's a former Women's Champion in her own right. I don't see a situation at all where Natalya wins the Money in the Bank ladder match. That would be incredibly underwhelming for me. So let's rule out Natalya. Tamina Snuka, as I mentioned, there is no way. There is just no way. And frankly, the additions of Tamina and Natalya was very disappointing anyway. I think some people hoped that maybe we would see Sasha Banks added in, maybe Becky Lynch. The big one was Sonya Deville, and I wouldn't rule that out. Yeah, even though we have 8 competitors, that's never stopped WWE in the past from adding people in the last minute. Brock Lesnar comes to mind as well. So I wouldn't rule out Sonya Deville being involved in the match, but the setup for this was just really, really strange, wasn't it? The setup was really strange in the sense that they teased for weeks and weeks as to who this final person would be, and then just suddenly, randomly, before it was, when was it, Thursday this week, they just randomly announced, oh yeah, the final name's Tamina, and everyone sort of went, well, why? Why Tamina? It makes no sense. So, again, reportedly, according to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful, he reported that there was a hope that Sonya Deville would be added into this match. I don't really, again, understand the situation there. The only thing I can think of is from a legal point of view with the whole legality thing as to her stalker case. Maybe it's not within her best interest to be inside the ring. I don't know. I'm hardly no legal expert, so I wouldn't know that. It just that just seems very, very confusing to me. I don't really get that. But anyway, Natalya and Tamina, they're not winning it. So then you go into the other names. Alexa Bliss. Could Alexa Bliss win the Money in the Bank ladder match? Well, of course, she has won it before. Is it really the best option for her right now? I would say no. Look, Alexa Bliss, I think, is a tremendous performer. I really do. I think it's a tremendous performer, and I think a lot of the hate she has got recently, or maybe not hate, criticism she has received recently, I don't think it's fair on her. I think she's an excellent performer, and look, let's face it, she is probably being given a lot of this creative, and she has to do what she can with it. Can you try and make it work? Chicken salad from chicken you-know-what, as the phrase goes. She's got to do what she can. For me, I was a huge advocate of the Fiend character and the Firefly Funhouse version of Bray Wyatt when it first debuted. That was nearly 2 years ago, or over 2 years ago at this point. I was an advocate of that. I was a big fan of it. I think the gimmick's played out now. To be honest, when it comes to the Firefly Funhouse version of Bray Wyatt, I was saying in 2019 I was getting tired of that element of the character because I don't think it's evolved really at all. I really don't think it has. I still think there's a lot of mileage left in the Fiend, and I think there'll be tweaks, and I think it will evolve. Of course, Bray Wyatt's going to come back eventually. If he's going to be involved with Alexa Bliss, we don't know. We don't know the situation there, but I think he will come back eventually. When it comes to the Alexa Bliss stuff, I'm just... The flavor now of the modern day fan is reality. People want reality, and people want something they can believe in. And yes, of course, people will say, well, the people still like The Undertaker, and still people like certain supernatural gimmicks. That's fine, but you walk a fine line anyway. And I think, to be honest, you can ask most hardcore WWE fans or pro wrestling fans in general, a lot of them will lean into, even when The Undertaker was doing some of the crazy hokey stuff, a lot of people kind of rolled their eyes and say, well, come on. There's suspension of disbelief, and then there's suspension of disbelief in what I can and can't believe in. And when it comes to the Alexa Bliss stuff, the puppets with the stuffed doll with Lily, the mind control stuff, the hypnosis, the shooting fire out the ropes, and all that kind of stuff, it's too much, and it's not good. And creatively, she's on a creatively bankrupt show in terms of Monday Night Raw anyway, but it hasn't worked. And it feels like recently, certainly over the course of the last few weeks, they've tried to scale it back. Logic would suggest they've tried to begin to scale it back because they've realized, they being WWE, look, we're going to be in sold-out arenas. Well, we're going to be in arenas with people in, maybe sometimes not sold out, but we're going to be in arenas. People are going to have to buy tickets, and they're just not going to have it. People are just going to boo Alexa Bliss, and not in the sense that they're booing her because she's a heel or anything like that. They're going to boo it because it's bad. It's bad creative, it's bad television, it's objectively bad entertainment. It's not entertaining, you can't believe in it. It's like when you watch a film or a television series and you're watching it going, I'm very aware that what I'm watching is a production right now. I'm very aware that what I'm watching is a television show or is actors acting in a film on a movie set, and it takes you out of the reality. And that's the magic of pro wrestling, regardless of whether you're watching at home or you're watching live in person in an audience. It's about suspension of disbelief. It's about believing what you're seeing, and it's about overcoming the boundaries and trying to buy in emotionally that what you're watching is real. It's not real, but if the acting's so good and the performance is so good and the atmosphere is so good, your mind kind of plays a trick on you that you believe what you're reading. You really believe what you're reading. So with the Alexa Bliss stuff, it's just, again, it's not for me. And I think it's played out, and I think they need to do something different. Could she win this match? I could see her winning it because WWE are, they're all in when it comes to the Alexa Bliss character, and as they should be in terms of Alexa Bliss, she's an established performer, but she doesn't need it. I always look at the Money in the Bank ladder match in terms of people that need it. How can we elevate someone to the next level? I'm not a massive fan on putting the Money in the Bank contract onto someone that's established and in main events anyway. I think that's easily too short term, and I think it should be what it was intended to be in the first place, with Edge winning it at WrestleMania 21. It should be a method, a vehicle to establish a new star, or to give a hint to the audience, this person, this male, this female, they're going to be a big deal, they're going to be a world champion within the next year. Alexa Bliss can become Raw Women's Champion or SmackDown Women's Champion tomorrow. It doesn't matter. She doesn't need it. So I don't think she'll win it. Liv Morgan, you would probably think, realistically, looking at the field there, Liv Morgan would be probably the one. The story, the real overarching story in all of this, has been Liv Morgan trying to get into the match. She was overlooked for Zelina Vega. She was overlooked for all the other names being added into the Money in the Bank ladder match. And because of that, she eventually got her name in. She was arguing with Zelina Vega on commentary. She's been arguing with Sonya Deville. I think a lot of people thought Sonya Deville was going to be the one to be added into the match. But Liv Morgan, look, at the end of her segment on SmackDown this past week, first of all, the commentary she had with Zelina Vega was god-awful. I mean, it was... it's one of the worst segments. The segment was a mess. Truly was a mess. Zelina Vega and Liv Morgan just bickered and argued on commentary for about 5 minutes, and it was awful. I mean, I've never been so glad to hear Michael Cole start to do commentary once again. It was that bad. I mean, truly, it was that bad. But at the end of the segment, after a bit of a brawl, Liv Morgan was standing alone in the ring. She's pointing up to the briefcase. She got a pretty good pop. Pretty good reaction from the crowd. And I think a lot of people like Liv Morgan. Social media likes Liv Morgan. The crowd likes Liv Morgan. She would be a good babyface holder of the Money in the Bank briefcase. Do I think she'll win it? I don't know. I'll say that she would be my babyface pick. Put it that way. Nikki Ash, I can totally see Nikki Ash winning. And put it this way, I'm not a fan of the gimmick. I've mentioned it several times. I think it's ridiculous. I really do. I think it's cartoonish, 1985 stuff. I know people will say, well, look, the Hurricane got over. And Mighty Molly got over and all that kind of stuff. The Hurricane got over because it was a comedy gimmick. This Nikki Cross gimmick isn't a comedy gimmick. They genuinely think that Nikki Cross wearing and dressing up like a superhero is inspiring, is inspiration. And that's madness. That is absolute madness. If Nikki Cross was doing this and it was a goof and it was the Hurricane, and then eventually, as you get over as a comedy act, eventually you can turn into a more serious babyface, I would get that. But this whole, I want to be an inspiration and I'm going to dress up as a superhero to prove that you could achieve anything and all this kind of stuff, it's so sickly and it's so for the kids. And I get it, it's not for me. It's not my demographic. And think of the merchandise, think of the action figures, and think of the kids. I get it, and maybe that's why WWE are doing it. I know it's Nikki Cross's idea, so apparently I can't criticize it because it was Nikki Cross's idea. If you say this gimmick sucks, then people go, yeah, but it was Nikki Cross's idea. It was Nikki Cross's idea. Oh, then it's the best gimmick ever. No, a bad gimmick doesn't matter if WWE came up with it or Nikki Cross came up with it. If it's a bad gimmick, it's a bad gimmick. If anything, this is just evidence that people on the roster are coming up with bad gimmicks as well. Not just WWE. The gimmick sucks. I mean, it's yet to win me over. But Vince McMahon, WWE, they're obviously behind it. Nikki Ash pinned Asuka on Raw Monday. So who's to say she doesn't win it? Who's to say she wasn't win it? I wouldn't be surprised. I really, really wouldn't be surprised if Nikki Ash gets the victory here. So she would be on the list. Naomi's in there as I think as an experienced head in this one. Naomi obviously deserves better. She's one of the best female workers on the roster, but look, WWE have overlooked Naomi for years at this point. Even when she was SmackDown Women's Champion, they overlooked her. I don't see Naomi winning this one, unfortunately for her. Asuka won it last year. Asuka this time last year was one of the hottest acts on Monday Night Raw. She carried, not just Raw in general, I suppose, but especially the women's division through the pandemic on a show that was bad, really bad, and didn't have a women's division. Asuka carried that show, that carried that brand, has carried that women's division. And where is she for it now? She is nowhere better. She's doing nothing. She got pinned by the fake superhero Monday night on Raw, and she's not going to win tonight either, especially after she won it last year. I'd love to see her do a CM Punk back-to-back Money in the Banks, make her feel a bit relevant, and then you never know. Asuka's got some fire once again on her back. I don't see it. Zelina Vega, I could see it, but I mean, what a turnaround it would be for Zelina Vega to win. Let's be honest here. We would be talking about someone that got fired. I mean, this isn't someone that requested their release. They got fired because of the third-party edict and clashing with the company, supporting unionization. Imagine WWE puts the Money in the Bank contract on the female that supported unionization. What a turnaround. The amount of heat she'd get on social media from the people that are going, what a sellout. She said she supported unionization and she went back on her word and she didn't fight it because, of course, Zelina Vega can change the independent contractor ruling in professional wrestling. Of course she can't. Everyone else gave up on that pretty quickly, so why should she have to stay and fight that fight on her own? It's stupid. It's absolutely ludicrous, to be honest with you. But it would be a hell of a story. It would be a hell of a story if the one that supported unionization won the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. If you said to Owen you have to make a prediction, who do you think is going to win the Money in the Bank ladder match on the female side of things? I would say Liv Morgan, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do see Sonya Deville added into this one. Heck, we could see Sasha Banks added in at the last minute. Maybe Sasha Banks wins, comes out, retrieves the briefcase. That's how we get Banks and Belair once again at SummerSlam. That's a possibility as well. As far as Becky Lynch, I don't see her returning to be in the Money in the Bank ladder match. If she does, she has to win. Because if she comes back and loses, then she's already off to a bad start. So I don't think they would put her in that spot. So I'm going to say, of the people that are in the match, Liv Morgan, but I could see Sasha Banks returning as well. But look, guys, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match for Money in the Bank tonight? What are your predictions? Who do you think is going to win? Natalya, Tamina, Alexa Bliss, Liv Morgan, Nikki Ash, Naomi, Asuka, or Zelina Vega? Let me know your predictions in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Got the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today, and I'll speak for you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.